Hello guys, this is Vikram and welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll see what are Jenkins Freestyle jobs and how do you create one using the Jenkins UI. We'll also see what is Jenkins home directory and what are the contents of this Jenkins home directory, like the files and directories. We'll also see how these directories will be populated with the dynamic information. So once you start creating freestyle jobs or pipeline based jobs. In the same video, we'll also talk about environment variables in Jenkins and why do we need them and how do we use them in pipeline jobs or the freestyle jobs. So what are freestyle jobs? So any job that you create using the Jenkins UI that does one or more ad hoc tasks comes under the freestyle jobs. In contrast, pipelines jobs are such jobs where you create your complete job in the form of a file, which we basically call it as a Jenkins file that can be version controlled. So you can use freestyle jobs to perform anything. You can run a simple Linux command or a shell script or a batch file to does that work for you. So freestyle jobs include like cloning a Git repository or invoking a Maven command, run some test cases, or deploying a war file to a Tomcat instance, or just invoke an Ansible playbook or copy files across various instances. So all these comes under the freestyle jobs where you completely code your job using the Jenkins UI. And coming to the built-in environment variables of Jenkins, so Jenkins offers a lot of environment variables which we can use in our pipeline jobs or the freestyle jobs. So how do we use them? Why do we need them? And how do we access the built-in environment variables? Basically, these built-in environment variables can be viewed directly from your browser. So at the Jenkins URL /env-was.html. So let's say Jenkins is running on a DNS name, let's say www.jenkins.com. So after jenkins.com, you can put a slash and env-was.html. So Jenkins is going to show you all the available environment variables that are available. So few of such environment variables that are available are job name, job URL, workspace, node name. So basically, let's say you wanted to get the job URL because you wanted to send the email notification to the developers that a particular job is success or failed. So in this case, you don't have to hardcode the job URL. Simply referring the job URL as the variable name, Jenkins is going to resolve this particular job URL with the correct location of your job URL that points to your job, and that will be resolved and sent it via the email. Let's say you wanted to get the workspace information. We all know that the workspaces are created in the Jenkins home, but for this particular job, where exactly is your workspace situated? So I can simply read this workspace environment variable that gives the exact location of your workspace for this particular job. Similarly, node name. Let's say you have a master slave kind of a setup and you wanted this job to be executed in one of the agent. So agent, let's say it's a Maven based a job, and you have 3 such nodes that can perform or run this job. Now you wanted to get the actual node name where your job is currently running. So you reading this node underscore name will get you that information. Similarly, build ID, build number, build tag, right? So these are all the environment variables that you can get. And coming to the home directory, so what is Jenkins home directory? So if you remember, once we install Jenkins has created a Jenkins user and whose home directory is set to var_lib Jenkins. So basically this Jenkins directory can also be changed using the configuration files, but this home directory contains all the configurations of your Jenkins server and all the details that you used or that you have configured in the manage Jenkins screen of the Jenkins. So all these configurations, the modifications that you do comes and gets dumped into this home directory. So these configuration files are basically stored as an XML file, and the core configuration file will be stored in the config.xml file, which basically resides at the root of your home directory. And the Jenkins directory also contains a lot of other subdirectories as well, like your jobs directory, which basically have all the configurations of all the jobs, the node information, the plugins, the secret information, And the one of the important directory is Workspace, where for every job Jenkins is going to create a workspace with the with a folder name which is equal to your job name. So inside this workspace you will find the job workspaces of the individual jobs. Now let us go to the Jenkins UI and see how to create some freestyle jobs. So I'm logged into my Jenkins UI. So from here I can just create a freestyle job by clicking on this new item. So we have a lot of job types here. So freestyle job is one type of freestyle job, and we have a Maven project, and we have a pipeline where we create pipeline based jobs. We have multi-configuration project. We have a folder. Let's say you are using the same Jenkins instance for hosting all the jobs. Let's say for staging you have other types of jobs. For IoT based project you have other based other pipelines. So instead of putting all the jobs or pipelines in the same root of the Jenkins UI, you can create a separate folder for each type of the project. Let's say for IoT you have set of projects, for your web development you have set of pipelines or the job. So you can club them under under folders. And we also have an option to create credentials that are scoped to that folder. So earlier we were talking about the credentials which are scoped globally for Jenkins. So here once you start using the folders, you can create configurations or credentials that we can restrict only to that folder. That means any job or a pipeline job or a freestyle job can use the credentials only in that folder. That means the credentials that are scoped to folders cannot be used for jobs in other folders. Then we have the multi-branch pipelines again, which we are going to see in the coming videos, and we have the organization folder as well. So for as a start, I'm going to just name this as my first freestyle job, and then I am going to select this as the freestyle job and click on OK. So as a description I can give anything, so a meaningful description, and then discard old builds. If you want to discard old builds, so I can select this option. So basically it is kind of a log rotation where I can I can code how many days to keep builds. Let's say I wanted to only store last 2 days bill, so I can simply put 2 over here. Or maximum number of builds to keep. Let's say in a day I am building this particular freestyle job 100 times, but I only wanted to put only wanted to keep last 20 jobs, so I can put 20 here. So the older 20, so once I reach 21 build, so the first build will be automatically deleted. So this is about discarding old builds. So we'll come back to all these. Project is parameterized, disable this project. Basically if you want to disable this project, so you can simply check this box, so it will disable the project. And coming to the source code management, yes, if your project is on Git, so you have to select Git, and you have to give the Git repository URL. So we'll come back to this. And coming to the build triggers, which you're going to see in the next session, so this defines how you wanted to trigger this particular job. Whether you wanted to do it manually, then you never select anything. If you want to do it through webhooks, you should select GitHub webhook trigger. If you want to build periodically, you do periodically. If you want to pull the changes at regular intervals, you do poll SCM. If you want to trigger this particular job after other jobs are built, then you use this build after other projects or build option. But if you want to trigger this job through remote script, like you have some agents running somewhere, like your it can be a Python script or a GoLang script, or it can be simple curl command. So using those external scripts or commands also I can trigger this job. So all these build trigger types of jobs we are going to cover in the next coming videos. And the build environment, so let's say this is your 4th build and you wanted to delete the existing workspace for this job. For the 5th build you wanted to delete. Let's say if you want to delete, you can just check this box, and Jenkins make sure that the current workspace will be cleared before running this job. And about build, if it is stuck, let's say your build is taking a lot of time, So you can abort this build if it is taking more than 5 minutes or if it is taking more than 10 minutes. So you also have that option. And if you select this add timestamps to the console output, so at the console output screen which we are going to see, so you're also going to get the timestamp. So these are all the various options available for as a freestyle job. So I'll go to this add build step and I'm going to select this execute shell. So I just wanted to execute some shell commands. So first shell command I wanted to run is, let's say, who am I? So who is running this Jenkins jobs. And also I wanted to see the path variable, so I'm just doing echo $path. So I also wanted to get the information about my machine. I'm going to do the uname -a, and you can do practically, you can include any shell command. So this is what I'm doing. So if you want, you can also do the date command, right? So you can do anything. And once this is done, I have to click on apply or save, or directly I can click on save. So now in order to build this job, so I have to click on build now. So once you click build now, so on the left pane you can see this is the build history and this is the build log. So if I just click on this green tick mark over here, that means the build is successful. So now you're seeing this console output. So the first thing that you wanted to see here is that who started this build. Okay, whether it is a user or it is a remote script or it is automatically triggered by some bot. So you identify that from the console output over here. So here we are saying it is started by the admin user and it is running as a system. And workspace, so as I said, for every job Jenkins creates a workspace. So workspace folder is here. Basically it is under the Jenkins home, which is varlib Jenkins, and under workspace, so whatever is the job name, so using that name as the folder name or the directory name, so you will be getting a workspace created by Jenkins. So I'll show you the workspace contents. Basically we are not doing anything, so workspace contents will be basically empty. And now Jenkins is running all the shell commands. So for the first thing, who am I, so Jenkins is responding it is Jenkins. And for the echo path, so Jenkins is responding that this is the path. So if you remember in the earlier video, we also added maven to the Jenkins environment variables. And now uname -a, so it is saying it is Linux and this is the host name. And so this is the architecture, distribution, everything. And for the date, this is the date. So Jenkins is able to run our shell commands. So now if you wanted to see the URL, right? So the URL is like this. So this is Jenkins IP followed by the port number. Basically this is a job and your name of the job, and then build number, which is basically 1, and then the console output. So now if you want to go back to the project, so you can go back to this project here. Now if you want to make some changes, so you can click on this configure. And if you want to disable the project, so you do it by checking this option. So now I wanted to give a wrong option, so instead of who am I'm just adding some extra, some hash or some illegal character. So I'll just click on save and try to build now. So this time it should fail. So the second build, it is now red mark. If you see, this console output shows that build is failed. So it is saying execute shell failure because this who am I hash command is not found. And now let's see, let's talk more about the workspace. So if you go to your job, so there will be an option called workspace. So let's say you cloned a Git repository. So inside this workspace only, you will be seeing that clone of your project. So we'll come back to cloning and all. Okay, so let's do it now only. So I'm going to click on this configure button, and now I'm going to remove all these things. Okay, so I'll show you in how many ways we can clone the Git repository using the Jenkins. So first thing is I'm going to go to my GitHub and find a project, so which is private, so that I can clone it with the username and personal access token. So as you see, I have a job over here, the project over here, Git repository, basically, which is private. So now I wanted to clone this. So in order to clone this, so I'm going to go to the code and click on this copy button over here, and I'll go to my freestyle job, and then under the source code management I'm going to select Git, and as the repository URL I'm going to give the repository URL. So if you click anywhere outside, so Jenkins will try to connect in the backend, and then it is saying that it is failed to connect to the repository. Okay, so there can be n number of issues for this. So first issue, we know that since this is a private repository, we didn't give the credentials. So what I'll do is in the credential section, if you see the drop down, there are no credentials. So now from here I can add the credentials. Basically Jenkins is the credential provider here. So there will be one confusion for the users. So if I try to click on this button, so I'm getting adding credentials option. So this credentials adding button is equal to, so I'm going to go back to my dashboard. So I'll open it in a separate window, and if I click on manage Jenkins, and if I go to manage credentials, okay, so there are multiple scopes. So first one is global scope to Jenkins, right? So if I click on this is the global credentials. I'll click on this. Now I'll click on add credentials. So this screen over here, it is same as this. That means if I am trying to add credentials from this button over here, so whatever is the UI that is opening over here, it is same like navigating through manage Jenkins options. So basically it is same. So now I'm adding it directly from here. So in order to connect to the GitHub, I need the username. So I'm just using my username. And as the password, so I won't be using the password. So what I'll do is I'll go back to GitHub, go to this settings, and then go to the developer settings, click on personal access token, and generate a new token. So instead of using the password, I'll create a token. So this token, I'm just calling it as Jenkins token, and the validity I can just put it to some 90 days, it's up to me. And then as a scope, I'm restricting only to this particular repository. So now I'll click on this generate token. So basically this is the token. So once this token is taken, and in case if you're closing this screen, so you will not be able to get this token again. So in that case, you have to regenerate a new token. So once you close it, you cannot see the already existing token. So I just copied it, and in the credential section, I'm going to add it in the password area. As an ID, I am just writing this as GitHub-credentials, or as a shortcut, you can just write GitHub-creds. In the description also, you can write some description over here and click on add. So once you add it, either through here or from manage Jenkins menu, so I in the drop down it appears. So I'm just selecting that GitHub credentials. So now if you click anywhere outside, basically this one should be this should disappear, but it is not disappearing. So we'll see what is the reason. So that's it. So we don't have to do anything since we mentioned Git URL and the credentials. Nowhere you have to mention Git clone and everything, because Jenkins will automatically does that for you. And I've removed all the commands here, right? So I'll click on apply and click on save. So now I'll try to build now. So now in the 3, you can see that Jenkins is trying to use the Git, and then it says error cloning repository origin, and it's a failure. So it is a failure. So let's see whether Git is installed or not. So what I'll do, I'll directly log into my Jenkins machine, and I'll just do Git. So now if you see Git is not installed, so that is reason why Jenkins is not able to use any Git command. So now I'll click quickly install Git by using yum install git -y. So this is going to, so I'm sorry. So now Git is going to be installed. So now Git is installed. So I'm in my project again. I'll click on build now. So now if you just check this build number, so it is saying console output is success. So if you see, console output turned green. So now git clone is successful. So Jenkins job is able to pull all the files from the repository. So now if you want to see where exactly these files are pulled, so I can go to my job, and you can just click on the workspace over here. So now in the workspace you can see all the files which are basically cloned from your git repository. So now in order to see this from the terminal, so I can go back to my Jenkins instance. So I'll go to varlib Jenkins, which is basically my Jenkins home, and inside that, as I said, we have a lot of folders and files where config.xml is the core configuration. We have the jobs related information and workspace. So let's first go to the workspace and see what are the contents over there. So if I just go to the workspace into ls-l, so there are job related folders. Okay, so we have this basic ad hoc task, sorry, my first freestyle job. This is my job, and this is the workspace for that job. So if I do ls-l on that folder, so you can see exactly the contents of your git repository. So workspace is where git is going to clone all your project. Sorry, Jenkins is going to, so workspace is where Jenkins is going to clone the git repository. And now coming to this jobs directory in the varlib Jenkins. So if I go to jobs, so I can see all the jobs that are created. And now if I open my first freestyle job, and if I do ls-l, so you can see the builds, config.xml, and next build number. If I go back to the UI and see, currently there are 5 builds. Okay, fourth one I have deleted it. So fifth one is the current one which is completed. So now this next build number basically shows the next build number. That means it is 6. So the next build is going to be numbered 6. And coming to the config.xml. So if I open this config.xml, I'm going to get the complete job as an XML file. So that is the XML version and your description and keep dependencies, SCM. So why this SCM is came here is because we selected the git clone. So if I go back to my freestyle job and click on this configure, so you can see all these details, right? The description and this SCM and selection of branch over here, this credentials and all these things, right? We can see as the configuration file. So you can see the URL, which credential you are using, from which branch it is pulling, and disabled, no, the project is not disabled. So if you change this to true and reload Jenkins configuration, so your project is going to get disabled. So this is basically the complete configuration file of your job. I'm going to exit and coming to the builds. So for each build, like we did 5 builds, right? So for each build there will be a separate folder created, and you can go to each folder and see the information about that particular build. So now what we'll do is, so we are inside this jobs folder. Now I'm just going to take this folder and I'm going to create a copy of this job. So I'm just going to copy the existing job, and I'm going to create with a different name. Let's say copied -job. So basically I have to use copy -r. So what I'm basically doing is, I am, instead of manually creating a job from the UI, so I took an existing job and just created a copy with a different name. Now if I go back to the dashboard, so basically I cannot see that job over here because that configuration is created in the from the CLI, but Jenkins is not aware of that. So how do you load that configuration? So basically you go to this manage Jenkins, and then you have something known as reload configuration from disk option. So if I click on this, Jenkins is going to reload all the configuration. So now you can see the same job which we created a copy with the name as copied -job. And if I just see, I can get the complete copy of the existing job. Even the build logs, build history, everything will be copied. So now if you want to disable this, right, copy job, so I can click on it, and if you want I can go to this configuration and click on this disable this project. So if I click it and save it, so it is saying error processing the request. So I'll go back. So it is already done, but I don't know why it is throwing that error. So I'll select this job. So now you can see that it is basically disabled. If you want to enable, click on enable. I just wanted to delete this job, so I clicked on delete job. So it is giving some errors. So if I just refresh, okay, so this is throwing some error maybe. And now what we'll do is, so we'll see the Jenkins environment variables. So as I said, Jenkins environment variables are available under the Jenkins URL /env-vars.html. So this is where Jenkins is going to give you all the available environment variables. So we have the branch name, change ID, change URL, so job display URL, and build number. Basically this build number is, let's say the present build number is 6, so this variable is going to get that. So I'm going to take some variables from here, copy them, and then I'll go to my job. Basically I'm going to my Jenkins URL, I'll go to this first job, configure, and in the execute shell under the build section I'm going to paste all of them. So I'm not going to use all of them, so I'm just going to echo each and every value. So I'm just doing echo. So this basically build number, this is a static string, but if I want to get the real value, so I should use dollar, and I have to enclose in the double brackets like this. And in order to get a fixed string, so I'm going to use the same thing like this, build num is equal to this particular value. So I have to quote them, otherwise string resolution will not work. So in order for the variable resolutions to work, you should basically quote it. So if you remove this, right, if you don't want to have that static string, so for variable resolution you should enclose in double quotes. Okay, but I wanted to build show a fixed string, that's why I'm putting it like this. So similarly build ID. Okay, so what is the build ID? Okay, I'm just going to copy it multiple times. Right, next one, build ID. So I wanted to use it here, and I also wanted to put it here, so that it will be like build ID is equal to some value. So build display name, so this is one value, and the other one is, let's say, yes, job name. Okay, so I wanted to use this job name, I wanted to print the job name as well. And let's say node name. Okay, so node name I wanted to put it here because I wanted to get the node name. So this is how variable resolution will work. And the workspace. Okay, so the last one is your workspace, so I'm going to get the workspace. So I'm going to delete the rest of the string. So this is how you use the inbuilt variables, environment variables, but you can also set your own environment variables, which we are going to see when we talk about pipelines, etc. And now, so let's click on apply, save, and then run this build. So remember, this build is currently the 6th one. If I show the log, so now see each and every variable resolution. Build number 6, build ID it is 6, build display name #6, because if I go back, so this is being displayed as #6. Okay, so now if I go back to the build log, so build display name is #6, job name is my first job. So see here, I'm not hard coding it, so I'm able to read it from the variable. Node name is built-in. So why it is saying built-in, we'll see. Echo workspace. So basically what is workspace? So this is the workspace which we know. So coming to the node name, which is built-in. So how do we find that? So we'll go back to the dashboard, manage Jenkins, and manage nodes and cloud. So if you see here, this is built-in. So this is the name. So if you click on it, so you can see the name. So this is built-in node, right? And I'll go back to my job. So clone my freestyle job. So now I'll go back to the configure, and now So this Jenkins Maven, this particular Git repository needs credentials because it is private. So let's say I have another project which is Maven employee web application. So basically this is not this doesn't need any credentials because this is a public one. So for this, so let's say if I just take this particular URL and then I just wanted to make it to source code management to none, but in the build section I'm going to use git clone and that particular command. So basically this is also the same thing. I'm just trying to clone this particular repository, and if I have any other previous files I just wanted to delete them, so you can just select this delete workspace before build starts. That's it. So click on save and click on build now. Okay, so now if you see the contents of your Maven employee project, so we have a lot of files including docker file, docker multi-stage. So now the 7th number build is also successful. Now if I go back to my project and click on workspace, so you could see all the files. So this Maven employee web application is the directory, so you can see all the files are cloned. So this is fine for the the public projects. So what if I try to try to clone a private project? So let's say this is the private one. Okay, so if I just take this URL and if I just put it git clone here, since this is a private project, if I try to build it, this is going to fail. Okay, so I can confirm this from the 8. So it says git clone basically could not read the username because I'm not supplying any username or password. So there are multiple ways to use you can do git when you're trying to log in. So when you're trying to clone, you can give username and password, but there are other ways in the Jenkins as well. So if I go back to my job and configure section, so in the build environment, so there is something known as use secret text of files. That means you can use a secret text, or you can use a secret file, or you can use a username and password, right? So for that particular environment, basically you're giving those variables. So in the bind section, so which one I wanted to use? Okay, so if I wanted to use a secret only a value, so then I can just select a secret text. But if I wanted to use git username password, I have to select this. And now once you set, it is asking you specific credentials. So I know I have already created these credentials in the credentials section, so I'm going to select this. And basically git tool, so we don't have git tool anything being populated over here, so I can just use it as a default one. Okay, so how do you create how do you get the other options over here is, okay, for now I'm just going to save this job. I won't run. I will go to the dashboard and click on manage Jenkins, click on global tool configuration. So in the git, basically the name of the git default one is named as default itself, so this is the one you are getting it there. So if I just say my git some name, but where is the executable? So the executable can be found by just running which git, right? So this is the one /bin/git. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to input it over here, right? And I'm going to save it. Now once I save it, I'll go to the dashboard, go to my job, configure. Now in the build environment, so the bindings of a git username and password. Now in the tools, I can see that my git is appearing over here. So yeah, so now this private project should be able to clone it. Now I'll click on apply and save and click on build now again. So this time, so if you see, the 9 number build is successful because we are able to give the username and password. So now this Jenkins Maven project, so if you see the contents, we have only src folder and the pom.xml. So I can go back to my job and check the workspace contents. So you can see the Jenkins Nexus Maven is here. So now what about the other files? So the other files got replaced because in the configure section, so we said that delete workspace before build. So if I just uncheck this and I wanted to clone basically a public repository. So I'll just take this particular URL, and since this is a public one, I don't need any secret text, and also I'm deselecting this delete workspace. So I'll just use git clone, and this is the public URL. Sorry, to copy it properly, and then click on save and then build. So this time this is going to clone my the other project. Now if I just check the log, it is successful. If I go back to the project and check the workspace, now if you see, there are two directories, the earlier git project and git repository, and the newer git repository. So this is the issue you get. So if you want to clear off the contents of your workspace, before running the job, so you should select that delete workspace before running the job. So that's it about the freestyle job. So you can explore all the other options as well in the configure section. So if you go back, so you have these build triggers, which we have a dedicated session, build environment. So let's say we wanted to add timestamps to the console output. So I wanted to check this, save, and I wanted to build it. So for the 11th build, so I can just, so it is saying already exists and is not an empty directory, so this is fine. And if you see here, there are timestamps appearing, right? And coming to the fatal destination path, May1 employee path already exists and is not an empty directory. This is because if I go back to the project and configure, so I'm not clearing my workspace before cloning it. So if I just check this and save, now try to build it again, so that issue will be resolved. So for the 12th build, now you see the cloning is successful. That's it for this video, guys. If you like our video, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and joining our Facebook group. The links are given in the description below. You can also scan the QR codes being displayed in this video. And for any training requirements, you can join our Telegram channel where we post regular updates on our upcoming trainings. You can also WhatsApp us on the number being shown here. You can also drop us an email for any kind of training inquiries. Thank you.